Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Dr. Rohani and fellow friends. For today, our group will discuss on the research of critical thinking by co-curriculum activities. My name is Nurul Naziha, and first of all, I will start with the background of study. This research is conducted on UiTM Puncak Alam students from 8 faculties during the implementation of open distance learning that caused by the outbreak of pandemic. This research involves students from Faculty of Architecture, Planning and Quantity Survey, Faculty of Pharmacy, Faculty of Health Science, Faculty of Business and Management, Faculty of Accountancy, Faculty of Hotel and Tourism, Faculty of Art Design, and Faculty of Education. At this moment, co-curricular activities are all conducted virtually. UiTM Puncak Alam provides 5 categories of co-curricular such as Uniform Unit Society, Arts and Culture, Spiritual activities, martial arts, and sports. These activities are selected to fulfill the credit hours in their respective semester. Co-curricular activities are not graded as core subject because it only acts as supplementary learning. The industry nowadays seeks employees who have more to offer than adequate working experience and hard skills. They are questioning whether universities are producing graduates with critical thinking skills to keep up with the rapid transformation in business these days. Nowadays, recruitment is a distinct challenge as graduates emerging from the Malaysian education system fail to meet the expectation of prospective employers due to a lack of critical thinking skills and poor communication, which has resulted in employers having to provide additional training to fit them into their respective job scopes. These concerns raise the question of at what level is the critical thinking of UiTM Puncak Alam students looking on the co-curricular activities they participated in. Research objectives. Number 1, to assess the level of critical thinking of students in UiTM Puncak Alam. And number 2, to identify the differences of activities participate to the students' level of critical thinking. Moving on to the research questions. Number 1, what is the level of critical thinking of students in UiTM Puncak Alam? While number 2, what are the differences between the activities participated with the level of critical thinking of the students?
Hi and Assalamualaikum. I am Raja Atira. As for the summary of literature review, the review has been made on the concept of critical thinking, co-curricular activities, and the relationship between co-curricular activities and critical thinking. The findings on the previous research have shown a number of definitions and findings. However, based on the overall review, it is believed that the relationship between critical thinking and co-curricular activities are valid and there are some connections between these two distinct variables. The hypothesis was developed based on this review. Moving on to the research method, the first method is research design. The purpose of this study is descriptive research as it was conducted to describe the critical thinking level of students by activities and to compare and contrast the level of impact that activities have on students' critical thinking. Then, this study has a minimal level of interference as it interferes minimally with the normal flow of research process. Respondents do not require a long time to answer the questionnaires and is also done moderately. Clarification was implemented for the type of investigation to understand and explain the research problem. Lastly, a non-control setting was implemented as the study setting, whereby the research conducted to measure the level of critical thinking are in the same and natural environment and the environment flows naturally, which is the activities of the student, and not an environment that is artificially made to conduct this research. Next, we use non-probability sampling method, which is defined as selecting the most readily available people or objects for a study as we are comparing co-curricular activities and the population size is unknown. On the other hand, the sample size was determined by using the software of G-Power as the size of the population is unknown and data is not easily accessible. As for the software, we use t-test as a test family and mean the difference between 5 independent means whereby we compare those involved in sports, uniform unit society, arts and culture, spiritual activities, and martial arts. The G-Power generates a whole 141 people for the total sample size. Furthermore, the data collection was done by preparing a questionnaire using Google Form and it was distributed to students for every faculty in UiTM Puncak Alam through mobile applications such as WhatsApp and Telegram. it is easily accessible, and the chance of unanswered questionnaires are reduced. The sample size is 144 students, and the total response was collected until May 2021. The respondents we have obtained for this research were 144 students, which is an outstanding achievement as the exact total sample size is achieved. Last but not least, for the method of analysis, there were two phases of data analysis done in order to achieve the objective of this research. It begins with the determination of the goodness fit of data that will be determined by the reliability and normality test, and end with descriptive analysis in response to the first objective, which is to assess the level of critical thinking in students in UiTM Puncak Alam. Meanwhile, for the second research objective, we use t-test to analyze, as a research objective is to identify the difference of activities participated to the students' level of critical thinking.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Haikal Abdul Hussein. We present about demographic profile, reliability test and normality test. Firstly, normality test referring to this table that the result of the mean for critical thinking. The value of the mean is 3.9 and the median is 3.909 were almost similar, indicating that the values did not differ significantly. In addition, the critical thinking variables kurtosis values is negative 0.659 and for skewness is 0.78. Within the range of plus minus 3 will indicate a normal distribution. This shows that the overall conclusion of the study's analysis can be applied to the general population. Next to reliability test, this table shows that Cronbach alpha for the variable is 0.851, which indicates an excellent level of internal consistency. Therefore, the items used to measure the variable were considered reliable. Considering the 85% of the 11 items consistently asked about critical thinking and internal related, none of the items was removed. The reason for this is that the variable was computed using all of the items. Next is the second phase, showing the descriptive analysis used to describe the characteristics of the respondents in terms of gender, semester, faculty and co-activities. There are 144 responses collected. The percentage present in the chart was referring to the 144 respondents. For gender, the majority of respondents were 64% are female. Next, the percentage of students per semester, in which most respondents were from the 8th semester with 22%. Then, the percentage of students from 8 faculties, in which most respondents were from Faculty of Business Administration with 33%. And lastly, the percentage of core activities, in which most respondents were involved in sports with 40%.
Assalamualaikum, I am Karunisa. So the third phase of data analysis is to answer the research objective. The determinations of research objective 1 is by computing the descriptive analysis. From the table 4.3 above, the mean or average level of critical thinking in UiTM Puncak Alam students is 3.9, which indicates as moderately high as it is above average. Besides that, the lowest level of critical thinking is 2.64, while the highest is 5. Also, the coefficient variance is below 12%, which is only 10.6%. In figure 4.6 above shows the highest agreement by students of UiTM Puncak Alam. Critical thinking 5 shows the highest number of students who agree, which is 42.6%. Most students agree that the statement indicates that the students have a level of critical thinking. This is because it reflects that they are able to objectively analyze people's idea while also being able to assess advantages and disadvantages in a given situations. Meanwhile, in figure 4.7 shows the highest disagreement by students of UiTM Puncak Alam. Critical thinking 9 shows the highest number of students who strongly disagree, which is 31.9%. Most students strongly disagreed, which indicates that the students have low level of critical thinking. This is because it reflects that they are unable to think innovatively and independently when being assigned to solve an expected problem or conduct a new project. Next, the research objective 2, the figure shows the difference between the critical thinking level of students in UiTM Puncak Alam by activities. The result shows a significant difference between the level of critical thinking students in a different activity. The highest percentage of activity is 16.7%, represented by arts and culture. Meanwhile, the lowest rate of activity is 1.8%, represented by sports. Overall, the result shows that arts and culture had the highest level of critical thinking, while sports had the lowest level of critical thinking. To support the nearest significant difference of these variables, we conduct a cross-tabulations analysis on its variable. Based on the ANOVA table above, the result shows that the critical thinking 10 and critical thinking 11 are the nearest significant difference. The value of 0.144 and 0.13 respectively, which is more than significant value of 0.05. Besides that, the significance value is almost significant, which is 0.282, which the confidence level is 70%. It indicates a relationship between activities and critical thinking as the F value is more than 1, which is 1.164, but the relationship is weakly related because the EAT value is 0.136. From the ETA square, 0.1% of the critical thinking level of UiTM Puncak Alam students were contributed by activities. We can conclude that students in sports activities are usually approach the problem in a carefully analytical way and are not agreed to taking a lot of time to make a judgment.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. I am Muhammad Aiman Shahmi bin Muhammad Azrul and I will present to you the implication, the recommendation and the conclusion for this research. So, here are the implications. Firstly, the university should be able to identify the weakness in the system and improve it for a better result in the future. Next, the lecturer should be able to guide students using the right mindset to ensure students think critically during co-activities session. Thirdly, the implication towards students. Students should be able to actively participating in activities that enhance critical thinking so that they can use it to improve their quality of life. For the nation, it should be able to produce students that can unlock the ability of critical thinking and represent the nation in international level. The recommendation for this research are future researchers should add another faculty or UiTM branch to enhance the result of research using larger sample size. Next, add more activities for sports co-activities by involving students to think and create different scenarios in their head before any gameplay. Thirdly, every co-activity should implement critical thinking classes. This is to ensure students will constantly using critical thinking not just in academic class but also in co-activities. Lastly, the conclusion. In this research, the research objectives, which is to assess the level of critical thinking of students in UiTM Puncak Alam and to identify the differences of activities participated to the students' level of critical thinking, have been successfully achieved as we were able to identify that the level of critical thinking among students in UiTM Puncak Alam is moderately high. The differences of activities participated to the students' level of critical thinking, in which students who participate in sports has the lowest level of critical thinking, whereby students who participates in arts and culture has the highest level of critical thinking, and we have proposed 3 recommendations for the future researchers, which is to add another faculty or UiTM branch and have 2 recommendations to increase the level of critical thinking among students, which is to add more activities for sports co-activities and that every core activities should implement critical thinking classes. I think that is all from us. Thank you.